Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Angelic Embrace, where we document and narrate the glorious and life-changing near-death experiences sent in by you guys. It is greatly appreciated. So sit back, relax, know that you are loved, and let's get into today's near-death experience story. Consider subscribing and watching to the end to find out what happens. I was attacked on the arm 3 times by a black widow spider. My spouse discovered me unresponsive and without a pulse after I had stopped breathing. It can only have been for a short time at the most. In a nutshell, I finally had no choice but to lie down on the couch in order to attempt to get some air into my lungs. In the end, I was the one who emerged from my own body first. That made me feel really uneasy. I find this very unsettling. The only reason I know it happened is because while I was lying on the couch with my eyes closed and trying to breathe, I suddenly saw my husband standing at the kitchen sink doing dishes and talking to our daughter, who was playing in her high chair with some kind of blue toy. This is the only reason I know it happened. As soon as I opened my eyes, I noticed that the foot of the sofa was approximately 5 feet below me. I sat down on the couch. I was about to ask my husband to dial 911. But I changed my mind and instead opted to pray before making my decision. Please take note that it had been years since I had truly prayed. We're talking serious backsliding here. I got involved in a wide variety of undesirable activities. In any case, when I started to pray, I found myself spinning faster and faster and faster. Then, alright, this is going to sound really insane, but it's the truth. You know how some people talk about entering a white light after they die, right? I didn't see a light that was white, but there was a magnificent light that made me feel at ease, comfortable, and at home. The hue of the light was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It was almost like a pool of color or presence that was radiating so immensely. And the only way I can describe it is as a neon kind color that was violet, white, and blue. This is the only way I can explain it. I had the need to engage with it or go to it, but I restrained myself since I was aware of what it indicated. My interpretation of what it meant was that if I followed that light, I would be whisked away from this planet. I held back my tears as I prayed to God, begging Him to have pity on me and give me another opportunity in life. I was well aware that my husband and our little daughter would be unable to function normally in the absence of me. I was aware that the decision wasn't mine to make, which is why I prayed to the Lord, begging Him to give me another opportunity. I made a pact with God that I would return to Him, that I would let Him back into my heart, and that I would get things right this time. The important thing to take away from this is that experience has irrevocably altered my life. I have such a deep sense of gratitude for it, but at the same time, I can't help but feel guilty and unhappy that it took something as awful as that for me to finally open my eyes. Because of the poor decisions I've made in the past, it's really difficult for me to feel anything but hatred toward myself. Note, before I was shown the light and made aware of its presence, I went through a phase in which I saw and felt a number of peculiar shadows in the process of wrapping themselves around and over me, almost as if they were trying to suffocate me. It was a terrifying experience. At this point, I started pleading for forgiveness and mercy from God because I had a sneaking suspicion that these shadow entities could have indicated that I would no longer be able to approach God and that instead, some other dreadful alternative would take over. Our next near-death experience will begin in a moment. Enjoy. I was in the 16th year of my life. After discovering that 4 of my teeth had broken through the roof of my mouth, I was brought to the hospital for general surgery. I was wheeled down to the surgery room when it was my turn. In addition to the attending physician, there were also 2 registered nurses present. Because they were all wearing full gown, I was unable to see any of their faces. I was under sedation. My heart stopped beating and I stopped breathing at the same time at some point during the operation. After that, I came to my senses. My body felt weightless. There was neither a ceiling nor walls in this room. However, there was a structure that looked like arches and may have been a tunnel. Despite the fact that I did not consciously think about it at the moment, I was aware of the way the light energy was being bent about me. The light was far too intense for comfortable use. If I had seen this in the physical world, it would have caused permanent damage to my retinas. However, it was the most breathtaking light, and it did not in the least bit hurt. In point of fact, I'd say it was just as kind as it was brilliant. I did not have a physical form, rather, I was energy. I was a form of energy that was connected to every other form of energy, both those that had existed in the past and those that will exist in the future. I had a realization that we are all nothing more than energy and that we are all inextricably connected. I recollect no sound, telepathy, or just knowing each other would have served as the means of communication. But the latter seems more apt. There is no human language that can adequately describe how amazing and calm this state of being feels. I had the impression that neither this world nor anybody on it really existed. In the event that they did exist, I would be connected to them through energy due to the fact that we are all one. I had the feeling that I had been to this location previously since everything seemed familiar. It's possible that I was even born here. The decision to bring me back was against my will, but I had no choice. I had the sensation that I was being dragged back to the surgery room. I had no intention of going back there. I did not want to end up losing that wonderful sensation. At that time, I was perched upon the rafters of the operating room, looking down on all that was going on. The room contained a larger number of individuals. I could picture a girl struggling against them as they attempted to bring her back to life after she had been killed. She would be brought back to consciousness by the machines, at which point she would kick and punch at them. After that, the robots would display her lifeless and motionless figure once more. I was under the impression that she was an impolite and naughty girl. I was there when she punched a nurse in the face and sprained the wrist of another nurse. When I could no longer tell her apart from myself, that's when I understood the girl was indeed myself. I had no recollection of anything till I woke up the following morning. I inquired as to whether or not I had passed away, and I was informed that someone would come to speak with me. Nobody showed up to talk to me about it. After that, a nurse entered the ward, and I inquired about her condition by asking, "How is your wrist?" "Still hurting," she murmured to me. "What is your source of information about that?" I answered, "Well, I did it. I saw myself." The response that she gave was, "You're correct, you did." After some further discussion, she affirmed that it was necessary for me to be resuscitated in the middle of the operation. Since then, I have been unable to get any watch to function properly. My heart rate has been all over the place recently. Because of this event, I've become very sensitive, to the point that I can sense the emotions and worries of other people. I have had 3 or 4 really obvious premonitions. But on the whole, I have a lot of knowledge about individuals, including their intentions and motives. I am aware of the gaps that exist within the files and the material, to the point that other people wonder how I am able to know this kind of information on a day-to-day basis. Either not long before or not long after this event, I made an unsuccessful effort to take my own life. I have a fuzzy recollection of the exact moment. I was cautioned from discussing the incident, so I spent many years attempting to forget it had happened, because I informed her that I had gone to heaven. My mother, who was extremely drugged and lying on her deathbed, questioned whether or not paradise existed. This seemed strange to me because it was not a topic that we ever discussed, and she disapproved of it because she was a committed Christian. I reassured her that it would be exactly what she thought it would be, and that it would also be superior to anything she could ever conceive. When my father was on his deathbed, he asked me if he could choose the time of his passing. After I informed him that it was his decision, he passed away just 10 minutes later. At the moment of his passing, it was quite evident that he was holding silent conversations with individuals or things that I was unable to identify in the room. I had gone to see how he was doing. It seemed to me like he was speaking with my coworker, and I believed I heard them talking. Only my father was present in the room at the time. My other half was sound sleeping in the other room. No sign of the second individual could be found anywhere. Despite this, my dad was awake. We were informed that he most likely only had a few months left to live. On the other hand, I was aware that during that night I needed to remain awake. Before it was officially announced, I was aware that my grandma had passed away. After her passing in 1979, when I was 10 years old, my grandmother paid me a visit in the years that followed. Following my near-death experience, I had a vision of my grandpa, who had passed away when I was just 2 years old. I was able to provide a detailed account of the home in which he had resided as well as the other members of his family who had passed away by that time. Even before my family was informed of his passing, I was aware that my grandfather had passed away.